Hello, world. This is Tommy Hagewood coming to you from Leesburg, Florida, the lakefront city in Lake County in the Sunshine State. It's 81 degrees with scattered thunderstorms in the forecast. This is Wednesday, August the 19th, 2020. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Do you remember when you were a child being examined by a doctor? He or she would say, "Open your mouth and stick out your tongue." Then he or she would poke what looked like a large popsicle stick in your mouth, almost gagging you, rolling it around a bit and then removing it. I don't know if doctors still do that or not. It was the gagging part that I dreaded as a child. I want to briefly talk about another tongue testing technique we need to practice continually. This is obviously a metaphorical use of the tongue testing, and it should prevent us from gagging on our words. I call it the tone test. It makes a huge difference which tone we use when we speak. Take, for example, the statement, "Come here." You can say, "Come here," as a request, or "Come here," as an exclamation, or "Come here," as a question. The same words can have entirely different meanings depending on the tone of the voice. Consider the tone of the proud, self-sufficient heart, which says, according to Psalms 10, 6 and 7, "The wicked, in the haughtiness of his countenance, does not seek him. All his thoughts are, there is no God. His ways prosper at all times. Your judgment are on the high, out of his sight. As for his adversaries, he snorts at them. He says to himself, I will not be moved. Throughout all generations, I will not be in adversity." Such a wicked person says, "I will not be moved." But he will. The psalmist goes on in chapter 10 to show how the Lord will destroy such evildoers who speak with such arrogance and defiance. Note what Paul said in 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 10, "For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may be recompensed for the deeds in the body, according to what he's done, whether good or bad." By way of contrast, note how David said, "I shall not be moved," but with a far different tone, with a tone of humble, trustful submission to God in Psalm 16 and verse 8, which says, "I have set the Lord always before me, because he's at my right hand, I shall not be moved." David's trusting submission tone was due to his faith in God that put purpose in his life and joy in his heart. Note what David goes on to say in Psalm 16 and verse 11. "You will show me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore." I'm thankful the Lord is merciful and gracious and patient to give us time and opportunity to repent. Consider, for example, the Apostle Paul before and after his conversion to Christ. Before, he was violently arrogant and he slandered Christ. Afterwards, he humbly and boldly became the most ardent defender of the faith. You can imagine the difference in the tone of his voice as he changed from being the arch enemy to being the greatest defender of the faith. This is irrefutable evidence for the drastic change Jesus can make in a person's life. The tone of a person's voice is indicative of the feeling in his heart. We therefore should consider as carefully the tone we use as we do the words that we speak. What do others hear when we speak? Not just the words, but also the tone of our voice. Do they hear the tone of anger, the tone of frustration, the tone of concern, the tone of love, the tone of encouragement, or the tone of discouragement? Are others being edified or torn down by our words? Our tone carries tremendous power. Consider what Paul said in 1 Corinthians 8 and verse 1. "We know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffs up, but love edifies." Knowledge without love will cause a person to look down upon another with a holier-than-thou attitude which says, "I'm going to show you how much smarter I am than you." Knowledge given in love says, "I am truly concerned about you and I want you to go to heaven." It doesn't dismiss wrongs or neglect to point them out in the other person, but it presents them in a way to edify. The tone often displays the difference. Consider what Paul said about restoring backsliders in Galatians 6 and verse 1. "Brethren, if a man is overtaken in a trespass, you who are spiritual restore such a one in the spirit of gentleness, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted." The King James Version says, "in the spirit of meekness," as the attitude of those who restore the fallen. Again, this is not to be done in a haughty, holier-than-thou attitude, but in a humble attitude of humility, realizing that you yourself could have fallen into sin under similar circumstances. Again, such concern will be reflected in one's tone of voice. What we say is important. How we say it is equally important. Remember to search the Scriptures honestly. Serve the Lord sincerely. and share the gospel message joyfully with others. It's a message that is too good to keep. Until next time, this is Tommy Haygood wishing for you a very pleasant good day.